So last week, my wife came to me and asked me a question. She said, "What's with the Missouri bill about China and our farms?" I had no idea what she was talking about. I hadn't heard anything of it, which is interesting because just a week earlier, I'd been having a conversation with someone that I knew who was concerned about China owning land in Missouri, and we had an interesting conversation. Maybe I'll tell that another time. But just the fact that there was this now apparently some bill, I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "Well, I don't know. I just saw an ad for it." So I didn't think much of it. But then we were watching TV together. Well, she was watching TV and I was working at my computer. And the ad came on. She said, "Oh, this is the ad."
China wants to control it all, everything from our tech to our food. And when China is in control, bad things happen. But the Missouri House just took strong action to stop them, passing legislation that protects American agriculture and prevents the outsourcing of our food supply to China. But in the Senate, some conservatives are still on the sidelines. Tell your state senator to keep our food supply made in America. Vote yes on SB 14.
Now, I have to admit, I didn't watch the whole thing because she talked to me in the middle of it, but I caught the end of it and it said SB 14. I said, okay, I'm going to look up SB 14 and see what that is because, yeah, that sounds kind of, I mean, I'm not as concerned about it just because it happens to be China. But I know that a lot of people are, and so I thought, okay, this must be something interesting that we need to look at. So I went and looked up SB 14. So this is a summary of SB 14 as it currently is, so before any amendments. And it reads, under the Act, a pesticide registered by certain federal agencies or a pesticide label consistent with certain federal pesticide labeling requirements shall satisfy any warning label requirement regarding cancer under any other provisions of current law. Now, I actually didn't read that first. First, I just read creates a provision relating to pesticide labeling requirements. And I thought, well, I don't see what that has anything to do with China. I don't quite get that. And so well, I'll have to figure it out. She said, well, the next time it comes on, I'll pause it so we can make sure that we have the right bill. Because I knew that it had mentioned something about a House bill that had already passed. So we watched it again, and when the commercial break came on, we paused it and it talked about House Bill HB 544, which was already passed. So sure enough, that had the same language that was in SB 14. So I wanted to look into it further and try to understand exactly what this was. So I actually went to the text of the bill. I'm not going to read the whole bill, but Section A of the bill says that Section 281.260 RSMO, which is the statutes of Missouri, is repealed and one new section enacted in lieu thereof to be known as 280.260 to read as follows. Okay, so they're going to replace a section of the law with this new section. So then it goes through, and the interesting thing is there is in here, we get down to this paragraph 10, and this is in bold because this is really the only change that's in that. And so this reads, any pesticide registered by the United States Environmental Protection Agency under the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act, FIFRA, a pesticide label approved by the United States Environmental Protection Agency or consistent with the United States Environmental Protection Agency carcinogenicity classification of the pesticide under FIFRA shall be sufficient to satisfy any requirement for a warning label regarding cancer under any other provisions of current law. At first I thought, I don't see what the problem with that is. Why is that a problem, and why would certain conservatives be against that? I thought, okay, maybe it's because conservatives don't like the EPA or something like that. But it didn't make any sense to me how that was related to China. There's nothing in there that says anything about China or about food production. It literally changes the law just to add that one paragraph about pesticide labeling. So just to make sure that I didn't miss anything, I literally went through the law as it currently exists, and I'll have links to all of these things down in the description so that you can check these out for yourself. I don't expect you to take my word for anything. This is information for you to be able to understand for yourself what's going on. So I read through this. I actually went through and did a comparison of text, a line-by-line comparison, word-for-word comparison to find out, okay, is there anything else that Senate Bill 14 includes in it that is not included in the existing law? Sure enough, this is the only paragraph that is a change in the law. And I was still really confused because I really didn't understand why it's being such a big deal, and specifically why they want to why they're raising the specter of China controlling our food production, what that has to do with anything. So I watched the ad again, and I paid attention to, it was said it was paid for by a specific group. And so I went then and looked up the information about this group. That's called the Protecting America Initiative. And their mission is basically to fight against the Chinese Communist Party and engaging in an active campaign to sabotage America. Their goal is nothing less than world dominance. Okay, so that's the specter that they're trying to create about China. I'm not going to argue about that right now. I think that there are some things that I'm worried about China for, but then I think there's other things that are just being blown way out of proportion we need to take into consideration. However, this line down here, our mission is to stop the threat of communist China at the state level. So, and as I went through and found out some other information about them, this is the about page. But on their homepage, I saw all sorts of information about different lobbying actions they're taking, information about different states. They also are doing some things at the federal level, but they're really involved at the state level. And this is a case where they are decided to target Missouri on this particular bill, but it still doesn't make sense how this bill is anti-China. And I honestly am not sure that it is. I have not been able to find a connection. If somebody else can find a connection, please let me know. But I cannot find a connection. The only possible connection I can find is that there are some Chinese manufacturers of pesticides that currently comply with the Missouri laws, but not with the federal laws. I was still confused. So I decided to try to find out more about this particular law, which led me to look at the House bill, which has already passed. So there's nothing we can do about the House bill at this point. But the House side of the Missouri legislature has a lot more information than the Senate side does. On the Senate side, I could find out who testified for and against it. But on this one, I can actually go, if you click right here on the witnesses, that will take you to this page, which is actually a form that is filled out and says who testified, what their position is, and basically what their testimony was, and whether it's in support of or in opposition to, which I was really grateful for, because then I could read and find out, okay, what are people who are concerned about this bill, who are actually in front of the legislature trying to say one way or the other, what are they saying about it? And as I was reading through here, I'm not going to read through any of these. I encourage you to go read them on your own. I found that the bulk of these witnesses, you notice a lot of them, they just said that they're in favor of. They probably didn't get a chance to testify. Other one says that I'm just in opposition to this bill. It does not favor the citizens of Missouri. But pesticide manufacturers. But then I got to find out that this is really about the drug, or rather the chemical called glyphosate. Now, for those of you who are not aware, glyphosate is the main chemical that is used in Roundup. Now, there's a lot of there've been a lot of back and forth recently about Roundup. Bayer, who was the original creator, who's the creator of Roundup, they have settled a lot of lawsuits about glyphosate, and there's debate going on as to whether it's dangerous, whether it's carcinogenic. And that's what I think that's the core of what this is about, is this particular chemical. So it seems, I don't consider myself an expert on the law by any stretch of the imagination, but as I've read through this, it seems that what this is about is that this is about pesticide manufacturers not wanting to have to achieve, or not wanting to have the labeling requirements that are in Missouri, which apparently, according to what they're trying to do here, are stricter than the labeling requirements of the EPA. So what is it then that this is actually about? It seems to me that this is more about protecting pesticide manufacturers from potential lawsuits by making it easier for them to not have to provide this harm language, or maybe it's about not wanting to have to put what's actually in it, so that people, maybe they're afraid people are going to buy it. I'm not entirely sure, but somebody definitely wants this to be added to the Missouri state laws to allow for it to be done by the EPA, rather than what Missouri currently has for their laws. Now, for those of you who may not know, most lawsuits are filed at the state level. You can file federal lawsuits, but most lawsuits are filed for infraction of state laws. So as I went through all of these things, I started to get a picture. And again, this is the story that I'm telling myself based upon my understanding of the world, but it seems to fit the facts. What I'm asking for is for anyone who has additional facts, please let me know so that I can modify it. But it seems to me that certain interests, exactly who those are, want to lessen the labeling requirements for pesticides in Missouri. Exactly what that means. Again, I haven't looked into it enough, but I wanted to get this information out there, because what concerns me more than anything else is the fact that we have some group. We'll talk in just a minute about this group a little bit more. They care enough to get this passed that they are willing to spend. Let me take you here to this page. So this is what Protecting America Initiative. This is what they have said, that they are pushing this ad campaign. Now, the one that they feature here, where this was before, this was actually a slightly different one that was before the House passed it. So this was setting it up and telling people to contact both their House representative and the Senate and the senator in order to pass these two bills. So then they changed it when the House bill passed, because apparently there was more pushback in the Senate than there was in the House. But you can read the transcript down here. And again, it's all about China and China aggressive, and we need to safeguard our food supply, passing protections so that they're not outsourced to China. Again, there's nothing in the bill that explicitly says anything about China, so it's not about that. But they were willing to spend, okay, it says right here, a 6-figure TV ad urging Missouri Republicans to support legislation. Now, it says right here, the 30-second spot made in America is backed by a 6-figure buy and will run on broadcast and cable in Missouri beginning on Monday. So this was from February 4th. The ad will also air on Fox during the Super Bowl in the Jefferson City market. Okay, so someone really wanted to get attention on this because they wanted to push to get this law passed. Again, this law modifies one paragraph in an existing law that makes it easier or makes it less burdensome for pesticide manufacturers. Who is this Protecting America initiative? That's part of the problem that we have, is that we don't know who's actually funding this. Is it really concerned citizens? It says that it's concerned citizens. A coalition of concerned citizens and public policy experts. Well, we don't know. If we look at who testified in favor of this bill, let me go back to where those were. Okay, so here's the testimonials. We can look at some of the people who testified in favor of it. This one here, so this one is he's a board-certified medical toxicologist and emergency medicine physician. Okay, so this is a physician who works as the medical director of Arkansas Poison and Drug Information Center. Okay, Arkansas is next to Missouri, but it's not in Missouri. So here's someone that's been apparently brought in. And then we have the Missouri Pork Association and the Missouri Soybean Association. So maybe that's our actual, the actual farmers. Some individuals are doing it in favor of. And then Modern Ag Alliance. They gave their definition. And it's talking all about about the economics and what not passing this bill would mean economically. Well, part of the problem that I have with that is that the existing bill, it's already there. The restrictions are already in place. So they want to loosen those or change those. Okay, no, I hadn't actually noticed this until just right now, but notice that this is business and an organization. It tells what type of person it is. So here's an individual. This is someone on behalf of a business or an organization. And then this one right here, a registered lobbyist. Okay, so this is someone whose full-time job it is to lobby, whether it's just the Missouri Senate and House, or if this also is the United States Senate House. I don't know. I haven't looked into that enough. But so that's the Missouri Corn Growers Association. Okay, and there's another one, the Missouri Biotechnology Association. And then another individual in support of Missouri Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And another one, Missouri Farm Bureau. And then again, this is a registered lobbyist. Okay, and then we have another registered lobbyist from the Associated Industries of Missouri. And a business organization, the Missouri Agribusiness Association. Now, this is an interesting one. Business organization, Bayer Crop Science. Now, Bayer, as I said, is the manufacturer of Roundup, and so they have a vested interest in this. Another one, support of Missouri Cattlemen's Association, a registered lobbyist, and then an individual, but this is supporting in opposition to. Now, there are some businesses and groups. Most of them are groups that are opposing it. That are in opposition to. But a vast majority of these are individuals. They're telling their own stories about what happened to them with Roundup, but you do have here. There was, just to make sure I'm totally fair. There is another individual. Okay, here we go. The League of Women Voters of Missouri. They're concerned about it. Another individual. Here's a business organization, the Missouri Coalition for the Environment. Okay, so these guys obviously have and the title is the Director of Policy and Strategist. So their job is to actually, even though there may not be a registered lobbyist, their job is to be concerned about what is going on in the legislature. So there are some in opposition to that aren't just individuals that also have, I guess you could say, an agenda. But this is, it's obvious to me then that this is a business decision. Somebody wants to protect businesses. And I'm all for business. But when business starts to influence government for their own interests and not for the interests of the population, because that's who the business has to look out for. They have to look after their own interest in order to make profits. Now, if they wanted to say, to try to convince people that, yes, this is a good thing, and they were to run ads for the bill as it sits about pesticide labeling, I wouldn't have as big a problem with it. However, the ads that are being run are creating fear that have nothing to do with what the bill actually does. It's creating a story, it's creating a narrative that China is out to get us. It's building on fears that they've been building for years about China and the evils of the Chinese Communist Party, that they're coming after us. And if you listen to and look at that ad, it is all about creating the scare. Okay, it's the Chinese scare, and they're using it to get people to call their senators in support of a bill that has nothing to do with China. Why? That's what I'm trying to understand, and the best I can come up with. And please, if you've got additional information, let me know. The best I can come up with is that it's in their best business interest to make sure that this law passes. It's going to make them more profitable. There's no reason why they would spend so much more money to lose it in the end. Now, whether or not it actually makes them more profitable, they don't know. We don't know. I don't know. But they think that it will make them more profitable. That's the whole reason they're doing it. There's a lot of talk about the deep state. The deep state, to me, is not the bureaucrats. To me, the deep state are the lobbyists. They're the companies, the ones that control money and that try to influence both the legislatures and the people to vote against their best interest. Why did they have a feel that they had a need to lie and create this scare to get this bill passed? If this bill was important and it was good for the people of Missouri, convince them of that. But that's not how our legislative system works. You get special interests that go in and they push. Now, in this case, it's interesting that some senators pushed back. And so people know that all you need is a little bit of push, and the senators can be, senators and legislators, they can be influenced by their constituents. And so apparently they were hoping that people would call their senators, and they're still hoping, because this ran just this week, and as far as I know, it's not up for vote yet on the Senate. Who knows? That could happen today. I may even be too late in putting this video up. But I would urge, even if you think that this bill is a good thing, I would argue that it's not. I don't like the bill, but that's okay. If you think it's a good thing, I would still encourage you to call your senators and encourage them to vote against this, simply on the principle that we will not be manipulated. This is a manipulation tactic by somebody. I have no idea who. You can't find out who. Well, at least I have not been able to find out who. It's a manipulation tactic to scare us into supporting something that may or may not be in our interests. But that's what we need to fight against, is this manipulation of our population by moneyed interests. So I would suggest that you call your senators and tell them to vote no on this bill, just on principle of not being manipulated.